Welcome to Gloomhaven Tales by Candlelight. We hope you're enjoying the journey so far, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy what you see. Also, please leave us a comment on your thoughts so far and what you think might happen next. For now, our mercenaries await. Gloomhaven Tales by Candlelight. Part 3. The Ambush.
Hex, my child, this is a mistake. You'll never make a name for yourself out there. This is home, where you belong. You're a good child. Your talent should be wasted in that city. They'll never accept you. Is it so hard to stay? To look after your own people?
I know it doesn't make sense, but I need to. I'm not looking to just live here in contentment.
The last thing I'd want was for you to disappear like they did. Believe me, child, I miss my son too, your father and your mother. I've come to terms with the pain of their loss, whatever their fate. I cannot bear to lose you too.
I'm sorry, grandfather, but the boat, it's waiting and my mind is made up.
If you have decided, then it is done. Good fortune, Hex. But at least tell me, are you trying to find them? Sometimes fate protects us from the painful truth of tragedy. Perhaps some things are best left unknown.
No, it is more painful not knowing. Take care of yourself, grandfather.
There was a sudden jolt as the quadrille was shoved aside, wrenching her from the flash of memory. The Savas was in front of her, shielding the blow of the arrow.
Get back!
Hex reflexively composed herself and scurried behind the overturned carriage, out of sight of the Inox. She put away the package in haste. She twisted and tinkered with her right brace before activating it. An enraged brimstone shook off the next two projectiles with little effort. Two of the assailants wielded bows, notching arrow after barbed arrow. Three carried cleavers and shields caked with dried blood, while the last, a larger female Inox, which was their leader, wielded a long hunting spear and a quiver of crude javelins slung across her back. As the three Inox brandishing cleavers charged towards the Savas, it shut its eyes and jammed its rocky arms into the mossy ground. It took it but moments to focus, drawing much strength from its deep connection with the earth as a crag heart. It withdrew a massive boulder, seemingly born from the very ground. Clearly it had an affinity and strength they did not anticipate. Before they could react, the massive rock came hurtling their way. It smashed against the feet of the Inox furthest to the left, sending the other two tumbling aside in disorientation. The struck Inox was left crippled from the blow, trapped under the immense weight. Two more arrows sailed through the air. One was swiped away, while the other jammed into a crevice in its rocky form. The Savas bellowed in pain, working at dislodging it. The spear-wielding Inox saw her opportunity and closed the distance on Brimstone. But as she neared, Hex jumped out of the back of the carriage. She stood between the two and brandished a strange-looking firearm with a hook at its nozzle. She danced about the Inox in a threatening manner, drawing her attention. She repeatedly aimed the weapon at the Inox's head, only to have a dodge in anticipation. She kept this up, but each time only threatening to shoot, and never doing so. So much so that the Inox grew wary of the quadrille's toying, and watched for the opportune moment to strike back. She had little regard for Hex as a fighter. Brimstone dislodged the arrow, and caught a glimpse of the quadrille in front of it, bravely going up against the menacing Inox twice her size. 2 of the arrows were let loose with remarkable accuracy.
Watch out!
She ignored the warning and waved the hook gun dramatically in the air, almost senselessly, as she opened up a myriad of weak spots. The Inox lunged in with the spear. The arrows were through, piercing the Quatrail's head. So too did the crude spear pierce her chest. Hex wished she could have gotten a good look at their dumbstruck faces as the arrows and spear passed cleanly through her harmless contraption, the lifelike yet ethereal decoy she had been working on. Brimstone cracked a smile. The 2 cleaver-wielding Inox rose to their feet groggily, and the Savas made a thunderous, rumbling advance upon them, the force pummeling them this way and that. The ground roared with his fury. The 2 archers felt intimidated, but the defiance of their leader spurred them on. As they nocked their respective arrows, they heard a faint rustle in the bushes behind them. Hex had used the distraction of a decoy to circle behind the unsuspecting archers. She was quick to use the element of surprise, and hence a toxic bolt was let loose at one of them from her left brace. The Inox archer crumpled to the floor weakly. The other started firing into the underbrush in a panic, but the Quatrail was deft and quick to escape unscathed. The Savas was preoccupied with the recuperating Inox. They formed a triangle around it, leaping in and jabbing furiously for weak spots. It backed away towards the carriage and tried to shield itself. They were poorly equipped, but ferocious hunters. As Brimstone deflected a thrown javelin, it was sliced by a cleaver. The weapons were fragile, almost snapping against its hardened form, but sharp enough to damage the creature nonetheless. It growled in pain as it grabbed its successful attacker with a crushing grasp and hurled it at the carriage. As its back was turned to the Inox leader, she saw another opening and jammed the spear deep. This time, the Savas almost collapsed with the force. Another cleaver dug into its side. It turned in agony, snapping the spear as it did.
Brim!
Brimstone struggled to stay upright as it caught sight of their satisfied, menacing glares. It saw an opening in the copse of trees to their rear behind the carriage. The Savas knew in its weakened state that it risked both their lives if they stayed to face those Inox. Before the others could subdue it, while cornered, the Savas mustered every bit of strength it had left and vented it into one explosive punch. Its target was the carriage. It burst into splinters and clouded the air around them in a foggy haze of debris. That was its goal, of course, for it also opened a path to their escape. The Inox was sent sprawling onto the ground with the shockwave that followed. Hex burst out of the bushes to the Savas' side, and it motioned towards the exit.
Brim, are you alright?
Fine.
Can you walk?
An arrow grazed the Quatrail's shoulder, the last archer maintaining a keen aim. Brimstone hobbled and she jogged alongside, keeping an eye on their rear. Undoubtedly, the pack of Inox would give chase, given their advantage. The stray arrows eventually began falling short of them, as the archer was out of range. They heard the chasing feet behind them, and the growls of their ferocious pursuers. In one last act of throwing them off, as they passed the narrow opening of the trees that led out into the forest edge, Hex dropped a proximity mine from her backpack. Her quick thinking may have saved them, for a deafening boom was heard not long after. They paused to check their rear, and only one Inox made it through, scarred and wounded. The female leader of their pack. She did not relent, giving chase with a mild limp herself, renewed and fueled by vengeance. Brimstone felt a profound lethargy, its senses beginning to cloud. Perhaps the weapons were not as harmless as it thought, likely coated with some foul substance. The mercenaries scrambled towards the headwind settlement they passed not long before Dagger Forest, the same mining village to which belonged the harsh children with a knack for hurling rocks at strangers. The Inox was closing in on them, A javelin lodged into the earth by their side, almost making the quadrille jump in apprehension.
Help! Help!
Several villagers warily approached, watching the scene unfold. Hex helped support the wavering Savas. She often glanced back, suspecting the chase would not end. Perhaps the Inox would now cleave through the innocent villagers in hopes of revenge on the pair. However, as she got closer to the heart of the village, she noted no growls or javelins. She was now surrounded by curious miners and villagers, young and old alike. She looked back in feared anticipation, but caught the glimpse of the Inox leader standing in the distance. She did not approach nor harm the others. She seemed to be in some kind of turmoil, cursing and pacing before she vanished back into Dagger Forest. Truly, the place seemed like a sanctuary in those troubled paths. She looked down at Brimstone, who was motionless, save for a few ragged breaths. Meanwhile, as our mercenaries were recuperating from the harrowing encounter, a new threat was brewing in secrecy.
I thought you'd never ask. I'll bring you their heads as trophies for the right price.
Do what you must. Just get us the package.
Next time on Gloomhaven Tales by Candlelight.
Garlin with a W.
I was just curious.
It's not a safe life by any means.
Please remember to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of our mercenaries. And also, if you enjoy delving into the interesting world of Gloomhaven, created by Isaac Childress. Don't forget to leave a comment on your thoughts so far, and we are looking forward to reading your predictions on what is to come.